So messy. You do know that we are live on Facebook and YouTube left now, and you are bomb chicky bomb bombing here. I don't like the way my hair looks, y'all.
It's because I'm enamored by hearing my own voice.
Gee whiz. Okay, let me just see Instagram. Okay, we're good on Instagram. So that whole section is going to be live, right? I'm just letting you know. Morning.
No, it's okay.
Y'all.
It's alright.
Hello guys. Hi.
Jonathan Lotta.
Ek weet nie.
That's the person who's calling me.
Someone's calling you.
Who's sending me, please call me.
No, I mean,
Jonathan.
I don't know who that is.
That's creepy.
I don't know. Look at how terrible my hair looks. Hi guys. Sorry, we are acting a fool tonight. My earring even fell off. Moses and Aaron. How are y'all? Claudia is standing behind the camera. I'm sure you heard her swing. I'm a little bit of a mess today, but you know what? Cape Town weather is not weathering. So I did say, when was it, last week, that I'm going to start doing Sunday lives. We have a webinar tomorrow night at 8 p.m. I will put the link up again so that you guys can join. The webinar is going to talk about specific things that you need to know about narcissism. So the key characteristics, sort of. So people who want to join, that's going to be on Zoom. It's not going to be on live. This live will be saved. Let me see. I'm sitting in a very weird place. So I'm gonna do the usual thing. I live in a very noisy place. You can literally hear people moving furniture upstairs. You can hear people next door. So it can get a little bit noisy. But I am going to get into the topic. So this is a little bit of an emotional topic, I think, for me today. Oh, I moved out of frame. Because yesterday I was watching Working Moms on Netflix. I've always loved the show because I just feel like there are some real elements to it that are interesting, and because of someone who's had children and had postpartum, it was an interesting show to start watching when it came out. But there was an episode that they were speaking about. The whole episode was themed on nobody's coming to save you, and it was interesting. The first time that it was said in the episode, the husband was saying it to his wife, and but nobody's coming to save you. It may think that that has been a statement I've lived by for the last 2 years. And it's interesting because, like the video that I posted yesterday about the people who are... Oh, I'm sorry. I was watching a sermon beforehand. So now since the Wi-Fi is back, it decided it was going to play. Anyway, for the last 2 years, my mantra has been that nobody's coming to save me. And I mean, it's not every day, but you learn very early when you are not surrounded by community that you literally have yourself, and that nobody's gonna help you out of your situation. But it made me think about the idea of community. And I think moving to Cape Town has really made me realize how important having a community is, because coming from outside into the city, it's very difficult to build a community from the city, because people here prefer having their own little circle, don't necessarily trust people from outside, and I mean, they have their own reasons for that. But I realized that early on, that when you're going through really hard stuff, that having a community really matters. So the video that I posted on Instagram yesterday, where the people are standing and everyone is doing it together, our brains are actually developed for community. We cannot survive without other people. Social media has made us think that isolation works, and it doesn't. It actually creates a sense of loneliness that we don't recognize because we're scrolling all of the time. And one of the reasons I keep talking about healing your attractions is because the people that you attract into your life, and I'm not talking about marriage or boyfriend or that kind of relationship. I'm talking about your circle of people, the people that you can be safe with, people that you can actually be vulnerable with. Having that community is vital, because a lot of people who unalive themselves usually are not surrounded by the right community of people, because intrinsically, as animals, because we are animalistic in our nature, we are meant to survive within a community. We were designed to survive within community. That's why, like that video that I posted yesterday, these people all were standing up together because they're trying to fit in somehow and form a part of a sort of community, even if they didn't know the people and had never met them before. We just intrinsically follow, right? And the reason I wanted to talk about this was because there was something interesting that I was noticing. I wrote an article this week. If you didn't check it out on LinkedIn, where I was talking about how I feel like influencers have a responsibility to take on some social development project that speaks to them personally. But one of the things that I don't think people in celebrity status or influencers recognize is that their responsibility is to form a community of people who resonate within their thoughts, experiences, ideas, which is why this page is focused on creating a community. If you don't have a community of people who understand what you've been through, where you've gone, what's happened to you, that kind of thing, having to survive certain things in isolation can actually cause you further trauma down the line, right? Because you're not able to ruminate through what it is you've gone through. So when I'm talking about rumination, I'm talking about when you go to therapy, you sit and you talk through what it is you've gone through. If you've gone through a traumatic event, say for instance you were involved in like a robbery and someone pointed a gun at you, within 48 hours you're supposed to see a counselor who helps talk you through the event from the time it started for you and the time that it ended for you. And this is what I talk through with my coaching clients. We go through those events one at a time, because the only way that you can heal through certain stuff is literally through a community. I was saying to Gloria, I think it was last night, that I would have not survived 2023 if I didn't have her, right? And the reason for that is having to sit with your thoughts is by yourself, especially when your body is actually physically responding to what you're going through, is very dangerous. I don't know why this girl keeps coming to mind. I don't know if you guys know the girl who, I think she jumped off a building in the US last year. She was former Miss USA or something like that, and she was a presenter and all of that, and then she took her own life. Basically, she was in isolation for such long periods of time that those thoughts that she was thinking manifested in the physical, right? And we don't ever really recognize that when we're going through something, because we try to isolate ourselves because we think people are going to judge us for what we're going through or the way that we're thinking, that the further that we isolate ourselves, the worse off we're generally going to be. If you don't have a space to be able to open up and communicate what you're feeling and go through what you're feeling so that you can actually resolve it, you need to come to a resolution. And that resolution doesn't necessarily mean you are forgiving someone or you have healed from it, but able to hear yourself speak the words from the experience that you've had. There is no way you can move forward from it. This is why most of our community ends up stuck, right? One of the conversations I have with people all the time that always used to frustrate me from the colored community perspective is this idea that we have to work in an office job until we die, right? And then when you're not doing something like that, you're being told you don't have a real job. The issue with that is we don't allow ourselves to express who we are outside of the idea that has been created for us, because we don't have safe spaces where we can talk about what it is we want to do outside of those spaces. And we are responsible individually to create those communities. I cannot tell you how many people I know personally who have not created those spaces, and what they are doing is trying to find outlets to focus on. So the outlets are things like going out over weekends or sleeping with other people, or they're trying to form connections in ways that are not healing or healthy for them, and not recognizing that the more they continue down that trajectory, the more stuck they become in the things that it is they are supposed to be doing for their lives, right? Now, originally when I started coaching, I think it was in 2019, it was mainly because I was starting to see more and more people getting stuck here, getting stuck in the idea that if I isolate and I focus on what it is I want to do in my career path, I'm going to get far ahead. But how many millionaires do you know that are actually happy? We are chasing a particular money goal or a particular, how can I say, status, and not recognizing that all of those things doesn't create the community that you need to help you actually deal with stuff that is going to make the achievements you make that much more wholesome. I was reading an article a couple of weeks ago where they spoke about one of the reasons many people who travel alone don't have okay, if you travel alone, you can't enjoy the experience as much as you do if you're traveling with someone, because that comes right back to our original makeup, where we have to be in community with people in order to enjoy stuff. Now, this is a lesson I had to learn throughout last year because of the fact that I came to Cape Town. I was by myself. I have family all on the side, but I don't have relationships with them. And what was interesting to me was in the first 3 months of being here, that isolation actually put me so much further back than I was prior to coming here, because I had no one that I was spending real time with. There's also the added negative effect of the fact that our bodies, it's not only our minds and our spirits that are built for community. Our bodies are actually built for physical touch. And people who say their love language is not affection, if you're in the right space and the right time, you will see how easily that transitions. Because you actually need someone to touch you so that your nervous system is regulated. I got to a point, Claudia is a witness to this, that I was actually finding people who were my hug buddies, because when I was dysregulated, I knew that someone needed to touch me in order for my nervous system to regulate itself. We don't think about this stuff because what we're trying to do is just survive the day, like survive because we have to go to work, we have to do all these things, we must be mothers, we must be fathers, we're chasing goals, we're trying to be in relationships, but we never sit long enough with ourselves to identify whether we're actually creating safe, healthy communities and circles that we can actually literally be so vulnerable with and so safe with, that we don't end up overthinking our situations where it is so much bigger than they actually should be. And I'm not saying that people are not going through a lot of stuff. I'm human. I might have a lot of education, but on a daily basis, I'm also battling with my own internal demons. But if I don't have my community of people that I'm able to ruminate over these things with and talk through how I'm feeling about some of this stuff, I can guarantee you I would not be sitting here tonight. That I can guarantee you 100%, right? I would have decided that it wasn't worth living. Now I'm going to, I didn't want to focus this on abuse, but I want to go there because one of the things that I feel like people who know people who are being abused don't realize is that your safety for your friend is the most valuable thing for them. It's easy to want to point fingers and say to them, yeah, you shouldn't be going back to that relationship because all of these things are happening, but you keep going back. But if you're not able to just hold a safe space for them without actually trying to, and I've said this before, without trying to manipulate them out of that situation because you know it's going to be safer for them, you are actually creating a scenario that makes them more isolated when and if they decide to leave. They require someone to hold that space for them. And I don't think it's everybody's responsibility, but I do feel like if you don't know how to be a safe space for someone, I'm going to say something crass, then you shouldn't be a parent. One of the biggest responsibilities of a parent is to know how to hold space for a child without expecting them to show up the way you think they should show up. We have this bad habit of telling our children, and I read something about that yesterday where a teacher was saying to a boy in his class who cried, oh no, you're a big boy, don't cry. And the boy's immediate response was, but I'm allowed to have feelings. We don't allow ourselves to sit in a position where we are holding space for our children. And then we have friends in our lives who are going through a lot of stuff, and then we refuse to hold space for them because of our own intrinsic belief systems. We have a responsibility to deal with ourselves so that we are safe for other people. Right? And this is why that article for me this week was so important, because I feel like if someone is privileged, because having a platform on social media provides a particular privilege, that privilege needs to come with a responsibility, because people's lives are now at your helm, right? You are responsible for those people's lives intrinsically. You cannot come into a well-known famous space and not recognize that there are things that you should be responsible for. One of those things is creating a safe space. I've been watching the stories on Women for Change for the last couple of days, and I haven't commented on it. But Claudia has been telling me about this. I think it's about a year now. She's been reading me stories from this page. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go look on Women for Change page. I'm not going to mention the page here. But one of the things, the mistakes that these people are making is that they keep sharing stories that are harmful in a country that is already suffering with abuses that go through the roof, and they are encouraging this behavior, right? Especially to boys who are impressionable and who literally think social media is education for some reason, without any recourse. They are not taking the responsibility for the people that are getting backlash in these situations. The comments in those things are horrible. Like the fact that, they call them what? Keyboard warriors. The keyboard warriors have audacity in the comments on these videos. And most of the time, Claudia showing me the video and then reading the comments to me, these people, the misogynistic behavior is being encouraged on pages like this, and these people are not taking responsibility for the harm that is happening in their comments. That is irresponsible. And like I said in the article in the week, if we're going to create safe spaces for people, we need to consider the fact that if we're going to have a platform like that, we also need to take responsibility for what happens on that platform, and it doesn't harm the people who get involved and decide to share their private thoughts in spaces like that. That is not a safe space to be. The amount of comments, things that I've seen from Pretoria, what's happening in Pretoria, people? Because, wow. These kids are doing the most out here. And those of us who are in exemplary positions are not actually taking responsibility for the fallout of that. There's so many things happening in the universities at the moment. I mean, the stories that I have heard in the last couple of weeks alone is scary, and we keep encouraging this behavior because we're not creating safe spaces for where these people can land. So then when people like me come out and talk about specific things, people are saying, oh my God, I've never heard anybody talk about this. It's because we don't want to educate ourselves to understand that we are all individually responsible for creating safe spaces for the people in our lives, right? So going back to the original topic about no one's coming to save you, I feel like that is such a harmful statement to make, and I understand why people make it. One of the things guys, just tell me the sound changed. Just comment and tell me if you can hear me, because
I can hear you through here.
You can hear me. Is it clear?
Yeah.
Okay, we've had to change the sound because the mic died. I'm going to leave the mic on. Sorry, we had load shedding, so I couldn't really charge anything. What was I saying? Creating safe spaces. Okay, I don't remember what I was saying. But, about the statement being harmful. One of the things that I've noticed on social media in the last couple of years is this understanding that we need to push. And that statement came out in the middle of this. We are, if you're not working for 6 months straight, you're never going to be a millionaire, all of that kind of thing. I get it. I really do get it. We live in an age now where we're trying to create wealth in ways that the world has never seen before. And a lot of people are achieving it. My question is, when we tell someone that nobody's coming to save you, the immediate kickback for that is the person then forcibly isolates themselves because they think, okay, I need to keep my head down for 6 months straight without any communication or without any vulnerable spaces where I can feel heard and seen and actually deal with some of the stuff I'm going through in this process, that it actually puts them in a very dangerous position, because now you're not in community with people, you're not touching anyone, which means your nervous system is rattled all of the time. You're not able to process when you're having a stressful day, because being an entrepreneur is very hard. It's very, very hard. And there are times when you just don't even know if you're going to make it at the end of the month. If you don't have a circle that you can ruminate and go through that with, it's going to make it that much tougher. So for me, that statement is very harmful, especially, and I'm sorry to put it this way, but especially for women. I don't feel like women have been designed to function on a 24-hour cycle like men have. I mean, if you read Alisa Vitti's book, she talks very much about a woman and a man's cycle, which are very different, right? We are not built to be high achieving, those kind of things. It's great if we are. It's great if we exist in a world where we're able to become CEOs and all of that. And I'm all for it. But at what cost? At what cost are we going to be sitting in a corner saying, nobody's coming to save me, I'm the only one who can do this? A lot of the women that I've seen who achieved very highly in this area really struggle with relationships. And I'm talking about just reciprocal relationships that allow them to feel like they're safe enough to be all of themselves. Because they're not able to develop that area of themselves because they're so focused on achieving high prize sort of situations, right? And I like I said, I get the statement. Sorry, I'm just trying to read comments. I get the statement, but I don't think it is a healthy statement to say to anybody. I have a friend who says something like that to me once a week, and I get why he does it. Because he's high achiever and he wants to do all of these things this year. I also want to do all of the things this year. But I also have to recognize that if I'm not doing this in a community of safe people, what am I actually trying to do? Am I trying to build myself into a silo by myself? And then what? The question we never ask ourselves when statements like this is made is, and then what? What is going to happen when you reach the goal? What is the plan? Where you're going to land? Who are the people who are going to sit and celebrate with you when you reach the goal? If we're not developing, fostering, and actually taking time to hold space for the people in our lives and them reciprocating that, we're going to end up by ourselves. We see this with social media already. We see this already with people, with the gaming community. People are so isolated that they don't even know how to form meaningful relationships. I think dating apps is actually exacerbating the problem because now we're trying to develop relationships online that has nothing to do with actual contact of people, right? And the worst part about that is it is very difficult to get to know someone behind the screen. This is why these older ladies that you see on these shows are being financially taken advantage of, because I think I got to know this guy who is from Israel, who is wealthy, and I think I've fallen in love, when in fact this man is sitting in some country somewhere just siphoning money out of you. We need to really understand how important going back to the foundational understanding of humanity is. And we spoke about this in my podcast on Friday. If we don't sit and really go back to and understand the whole reason for our design, we're going to keep going down a trajectory where abuses and misogyny and this patriarchal world that we live in is going to increase every single day. I was watching a video earlier. I wanted to repost it. I don't think I reshared it. Where there was a journalist asking a guy, I think it was in Dubai or Abu Dhabi, why they are building high-rise buildings and why they want to do it in a short space of time within 5 years. And this guy said at the end of the day is because I want people to have better lives. But I get the point of the video, but when I was watching it, all that went through my mind was, in a woman's world, that wouldn't be the case. In a woman's world, especially a sound, emotionally mature woman, that money would have resolved hunger in places that would never have to experience it again. Instead of building tall buildings, really pricey cul-de-sacs where huge houses are, where the elite can actually go and live. You're not creating spaces for people to live equally. We're creating spaces for elitism. I feel like women, and this is not me trying to be sexist, but I feel like women think through these things more soundly. But with the way that we're living, we're pushing the world to become more misogynist. We're pushing the world to become more masculine. So then we can't complain about the state that South Africa is going in, because we're not actually creating the safe spaces that is required. And those safe spaces, let me tell you what will come out of those safe spaces. If we are able to create those safe spaces, influence in the spaces where it matters, like government and the police and in the law, where decisions are made, where laws are changed, will have that much more traction, because there are more people joining the conversation from a community standpoint, as opposed to one person standing on top of the mountain as the celebrity and the other people who are just followers worshipping whatever they say. That person can have a great idea on one area and be really stupid in a different area, but you never get to know that because you are following and not understanding that you only get to know someone in a community situation. You cannot get someone who is standing on a mountaintop. This is why I appreciate people who are on social media and why I tell people my DMs are open and I respond to all of my DMs. The people who I literally know that I will have a conversation with them in my DMs even if I've never met them in person. Because it's better to create a community of people who have resonance because they get to know me and not a version of me I'm trying to portray on social media. What would be the point of that? That means you don't help anybody. And you also not setting yourself up to make connections that could be valuable for you in a community friendship sort of scenario later on. Right? So I'm going to go back to the beginning. Like I said, the topic was about nobody's coming to save you. We need to create spaces where that isn't true anymore. I really want to intentionally create a space where that isn't true. Because I need to know that if someone is going through something, they can bet that I'm going to show up for them. Even if I have nothing, that at least my person will show up for them. Because in my community, I know that is my responsibility, right? In my circle of friends, I know that is my responsibility. I tell Claudia all the time, someone must not try her, because I will find a knife. I don't know how to fight to save my life.
But we make it happen.
But I will find a knife.
Find a sniper.
And I will threaten you. But we have to choose to be ride or dies for the people in our lives. And I know that that doesn't happen for all of us. I'm a pure example of someone who has not experienced that. In the last year is the only year I've really developed friendships where people show up for me emotionally even when they have nothing. But in the hardest, darkest times of my life, you can bet I was by myself. Okay. That's why the book was written. But we need to really sit and have these conversations. Most of the time I do these lives because I'm hoping that when the family is having supper, now I know it's Ramadan, so when people are breaking fast together as a family, that one of these conversations is coming up at that table. And that as a family, the adults can have enough conversation about this, that the children are chiming in on their point of view. And just really having deep, intimate conversations about our ideas on things like this. Because the best place to start is in our homes, right? The best place to start is to create that safe space within our homes where our children feel seen and heard, where they feel like they're part of a community that's not going to drop them if they make a decision or they go through something. There's too many people that I get messages from that are struggling because they come from a community that's tried to oust them because of their decisions, either from their sexual orientation and stuff like that. The issue with that is you can't force someone to change by kicking them out of a system. That's actually very counterproductive. And I know that in particular religious circles and belief systems, this happens way too often. My co-host on this live actually said to me on Friday, he works with a very big homeless community. And he said one of the things he's seen in high numbers is people who have been kicked out of their community because they've chosen to live a particular way. And the danger with that is homelessness is getting out of hand because of that. When these people actually have blood relatives that don't necessarily have to agree with them. You don't have to agree with someone to love them. Loving them just means you're showing up for them, right? As humans, humanity should stand on showing up for someone even if you don't agree with the decisions they make. That is what we should be aiming for. That is the kind of, I pray every day, the kind of world that I end up dying in. Even at a small scale. But that takes each and every one of us to start making strides in that area. So before I become any more preachy, if you have any questions, let me see if you have any questions. Okay, they won't say anything. So I said last week that I wanted to listen to a Q&A. So if there's any questions, anyone wants to say anything, let me, oh my word, we've been on here a long time. Anything really, or you can inbox me, it really is okay. But Claudia, do you have any thoughts while I check on Facebook what's happening?
Not really, I think you covered everything very, very well.
What are your ideas on community? I know you come from a family who's very tight. Like tight.
Well, my family values family over any other kind of like external relationships. So if I were to say that now me and my friends are going to be doing this and this and I'm forming a community, they'd be like, oh, so you're friends now. They would displace them a bit. But I think that's just the culture of the way that they were raised, you know. I don't know how to.
I feel like that's like a small town mentality as well. Like the one thing I appreciate about small towns is that they understand the importance of having a community. So if something happens to someone, the community surrounds you. This big town and like city situation.
It breeds isolation.
Yeah, it breeds isolation in a way that I think is dangerous.
Yeah.
Which is actually quite scary because how many people did we meet in the backpackers last year that are actually silos and who've been abandoned by their families? Like we've seen heartbreaking stories of people who did not deserve to be isolated. Either they've had a medical condition, their lives just didn't turn out the way that it should. Some of them have come from drug abuse history and basically dropped off. There's literally a boy who came there who was dropped off at the backpackers and essentially left to fend for himself. And you know that the level of rejection, there's one thing if your community rejects you. It's a completely different story when your family rejects you on top of that. You find ways then to further isolate yourself because there's a shame that comes with that rejection, right? There's a shame that you are too afraid now to open up to other people about. I mean, one of the boys that we were friends with was too ashamed to even talk about half of the things that happened to him, and bad things happened to him, and he was so isolated and rejected, and none of the things that happened to him was his fault. We need to really be responsible enough to realize that every one of us needs to at least, no one's saying you need to be a counselor, like no one's saying you need to save the world, but don't ever feed someone the idea that no one's coming to save you, because if you're able to say that to them, it means you are neglecting something that you are able to do. Right? Everyone is able to do something at the bare minimum. I'm the kind of person who believes that even if I don't have a penny to give, I will give my time. That's actually what I do 90% of the time, is I will give my time to listen to you, to try and find ways to help you with my limited resources. I can't offer you money, but I can offer you what it is you need most, and that's one of the most important lessons I think I learned from my co-host for years, is that people learn to get up on their own if you can at least be available and hold space for them, and this is the necessary reason for community. So hi Melise, please save this live, would love to share it. Okay, I'm going to save this one. Yeah, so no one's really having any comments. I don't know. I feel like some days I'm just like, am I even interesting? I feel like I'm boring because people never have anything to say. But I do get a lot of DMs still. So one of the things I want to remind you guys is, if you still want to get snippets of my book, please send me your email address. There are a few people on there who have responded so beautifully. I'm literally only sending short snippets because one of my friends who read parts of my book said to me, it can be pretty traumatic to go through the chapters. So I'm literally sharing small snippets of it. That started going out on, it was Wednesday, or was it Thursday? It was Thursday, I think. So I'm doing that once a week until I get the funding to be able to publish the book. Some of the sections are going to be pretty triggering, so I do give a blurb, and when people email me about it, I respond. I actually got a beautiful call on Friday morning from someone who said they really got so much from just the little section that I spoke about. And I spoke intensely in that section about a dark space where suicide felt like the only option for me. But there's that, and then tomorrow there's the webinar. We're going to talk about understanding the key sort of character traits of narcissism. It's only going to be 30 minutes long, and the people who are coming will get a little mini surprise that I'm busy. Hopefully I'll be finished with it tomorrow, but if not, you guys will get a snippet of what it is I'm going to do. You're getting that for free, so I email that to you if you join the webinar. It's on Zoom. I'm hoping to do it at 8 o'clock, but load shedding started again. So I'm going to double check the time. Actually, check for me. Let me do it on here now. That link I will put up after this. So you just join, you don't have to send me your email or whatever. It's an open Zoom live. And then there's no load shedding tomorrow. Okay, so we'll do it at 8 p.m. It will be the same sort of scenario tomorrow night. You will just be on Zoom, because I feel in that space it's a little more private. You can even come through. I think you can come in anonymously on Zoom. So if you have specific questions, you can ask them there. It's a safe space. It's a private space. I'm not going to be saving it, and I'm not going to be recording it. One of the things that I keep telling my coaching clients is I value your privacy very highly. So anything that you share with me does not go outside of our conversation. Coaching is still open. I'm coaching this week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So if you want to book that, the link is in my bio. And then I'm still busy planning the workshops. A few things have come up with that. I will solidify that, I think, a little bit more in about 2 or 3 weeks or so, because planning is a lot. But then also sign up for Only This Life, subscribe to the channel, because guys, Friday's interviews was a life. Robbie had us on the floor the way we were laughing. And this coming Saturday we're recording awesome interviews. I'll share it on Saturday after we record it. Like, I'm so excited. Like, the windows of heaven are starting to open, right? So that's going to be fantastic. But I'm going to share this live. You can share it with whoever you want. I love you guys so much, and it was cool hanging out with you. Bye!
How did I know you were going to do exactly that?
I always say bye like that.
Bye.